Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress, and I'm a life and parenting coach. And the last few episodes, I've been talking about sort of making your mornings and your afternoons a little bit more pleasant. We've talked about the gentle handoff, which is really this idea of delivering the most emotionally regulated person you can to school, and what that requires, essentially staying really calm and present, not parenting in the morning, not talking about big, heavy things, just kind of getting through the morning. And then I also talked about eyeballs, which is this idea of making eye contact and making a genuine connection before your kids leave. Like whenever you are in reunion, like so when they wake up and when you say goodbye, and then when you rejoin each other together after school and then before bed. So I love these concepts, and I want to teach you one other thing that I did a lot with my kids and that I teach, and I realized I haven't done it on the podcast, and I call it 5 things. So it's really not that complicated. And what essentially is I sat with myself and decided what are the 5 things that my kids need to do every morning before school, sort of the non-negotiables. I also had the 3 things, and those were the 3 things they needed to do before bed. I'm going to go through what those things are, but what I did was I taught my kids the 5 things. I'd say, okay, every morning you need to get dressed, brush your teeth, eat breakfast, get your lunchbox in your backpack, and your socks and shoes. So those were the 5 things. And we would talk about it every day, like, the beginning of the school year. I'd say, okay, remember, have you done your 5 things? And then I would go through the list. Now, the way that I did this once they kind of knew what the 5 things were is I'd stand at the door about 5 minutes before it was time to leave. And I would say, okay, it's time to leave. Have you done your 5 things? And I would make eye contact, get eyeballs, look at them, and I'd say, hey, look at me, pay attention, look at me, come here. Have you done your 5 things? And then they would go, huh, and they would like, what? Oh, and then they'd have to do some thinking, put their thinking cap on, and start to get into what they needed to do. And so I could look at them and say, I don't see socks and shoes, so I don't think you've done your 5 things. So what do you need to do now? And I'd say socks and shoes. Great. Go ahead and do that. So I would try to coach them in such a way that they would have to do their own thinking instead of barking, hey, you haven't got dressed, get dressed. You have to brush your teeth, you haven't brushed your teeth. Come on, brush your teeth. Hurry up, you got to brush your teeth. Or you need to eat. We got to get to school. If you don't eat, we're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a big belly and your stomach's going to hurt. And you know you need protein in the morning. Or like, oh, did you get your lunchbox? Once again, you didn't take your lunchbox. All that extra talking is stressful for you and for your kids, and it doesn't really help them do their own thinking. So my theory with the 5 things is they have to do their own thinking. They have to memorize what is required of them in order to go to school, right? So when I say lunchbox, it was kind of like lunchbox backpack because they had to put their lunchbox in their backpack and then they'd have their backpack. So I'd say, have you done your 5 things? And the 5 things were get dressed. That's 1. Brush your teeth. Eat breakfast. Lunchbox in your backpack. Socks and shoes. So I did not care about water bottles. I've talked about this before. I didn't fill up water bottles. I didn't manage water bottles. Probably by the time they were 7, I was out of the water bottle game. If they were really thirsty at school, they would say like, oh, I was so thirsty at school. And I'd say, you're welcome to fill up a water bottle and put it in your backpack at any time. I'm just not going to do water. I really didn't think that they needed water. I grew up without water at school and I survived, and the school has watering fountains, drinking fountains, and I think they can survive without water. But I know some of you feel differently, so you might say lunchbox and water. That might be a combo for your 5 things. Now, I was watching Instagram, as one does, and I always get so many tips and parenting tips, because I'm a parenting coach, and they think that I need a lot of parenting tips, I guess. So anyway, I was looking at Instagram, and I think this account is called Sprinkle in Learning, and we'll link this reel in the show notes and in the email. But this mom came up with this really cool thing. You know those lights that are battery operated that you can attach with just a piece of adhesive? Like I think they're designed to go under countertops and stuff like that. So what she did was she put them on the wall with the picture of her 5 things. And then the little girl goes and does the thing and untaps the light. So when the light is on, the little girl knows she hasn't done it yet. And then she goes and taps it only after she's completed that one of those 5 things. And it was really cute because her 5 things were backpack, water, lunch, shoes, and jacket. And in this example, the little girl's already dressed. So for my 5 things, it was dressed, teeth, eat, lunchbox, socks, and shoes. So I did the whole morning routine in the 5 things. So you can do it either way. Now, a couple other tips around these 5 things is two tips. One is if your child hasn't eaten breakfast, okay, there's a variety of thoughts about this. I deeply believe that a hungry belly is the best teacher of I should eat, right? So getting to school and not being able to have eaten something is a good, like the brain starts to connect the dots and says like, oh, I don't want to feel like that, so I better do something about it. Now, little kids have a lot of trouble connecting those dots, but we want them to be connecting those dots. If we do all their thinking, we're actually denying them of the ability to develop executive function. So we really want them to be able to start to connect those dots. Or they get home and they're like, I was so hungry today. I was so hungry this morning. And you say, oh yeah, having a hungry belly is so hard. I'm sorry. Maybe tomorrow you'll create time for breakfast, right? So we don't want to be like, I told you so or anything. You just say like, yeah, that's tough. And I think you're going to be able to figure out how to do it tomorrow. Now, so for me, I had breakfast available. We tried to leave the house around 8. Now, the school started at 8:45 was like the final bell. And we lived about 8 minutes from school. And they could get dropped off as early as 8:15. So I made it my goal to have that early drop off be our time. So in my mind, school started at 8:15. It was also really convenient because I liked to go to this exercise class back then at 8:30. And so I could drop off, there was no line, and I could take my kids to school. The other thing that happened a lot in our family was that my husband took the kids to school. And so he also liked them to be ready at 8, and then he could drop off and he could walk in. We tried to do walk in as much as we could and gentle handoff, and then he would head off to work. So for a really long time, our routine was to leave at 8. So I would close the kitchen at 7:45. So I would have breakfast available from 7 to 7:45. Now, my younger son, he woke up really early. He woke up at 5:30. And so I'd have some boundaries for him, like you're welcome to have breakfast once you're dressed and your teeth are brushed. So there was a habit of not having breakfast in pajamas on school days. Breakfast in pajamas is fun on the weekend when you don't have anywhere to go, but breakfast in pajamas on a school day really kind of extends that like casual morning, and I kind of wanted to get into gear. So you would get up, get dressed, brush your teeth. Then you would come to the kitchen and eat breakfast, and then grab your lunchbox, put your socks and shoes on, and into the car. So if I did not close the kitchen at 7:45, if I was still having kids eating, then they were not ready at 8 because they didn't have time to get their lunchbox into their backpack and get their socks and shoes on. Because as you know, that can take like 7 or 8 minutes with little kids. It actually takes me like 3 or 4 minutes to put socks and shoes on. So just really taking in that time, knowing, okay, everyone needs 15 minutes after breakfast to like get this last stuff done, going to the bathroom. Now, why I loved this big window that I had of planning to leave at 8 and not really needing to be at school for a long time is that I could have emergency time. If somebody had to go to the bathroom, if the dog got into something, if there was a spill, if for some reason I had to deal with like water emergency, or somebody like my sister calls and she's got something I got to deal with, something like that, there was a little bit of cushion built into the morning so that I wouldn't feel so stressed. That's part of that gentle handoff, part of delivering the most emotionally regulated person. So after maybe a year, like a long time, because kids are little. I started this when they were in kinder and preschool, or the 5 things. It takes a while for them to really internalize it. That's why that idea that the mom has that we're going to link with the picture and the little checkbox, kind of using the lights as like check, 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 is so helpful, because it starts to build that muscle memory, and that the body loves rhythm. It loves routine. It likes knowing predictability, likes doing the same thing every day. So the more you can create that rhythm and do the same order of things, the easier it is for your kids. So the time the boys were in 1st and 2nd grade, I didn't do any teaching anymore. I would just stand at the door and I'd say, have you done your 5 things? And then they would scramble, get their 5 things done, and be ready. And I have an ADHD kid. I have a kid with sensory processing issues. I have a kid with my kids are not like the easiest people to raise by any means. And I'm not the most calm person in the world either. Like, I want to be on time. I do have things I want to get done. I was like a hyper productive parent. I was like, here we go. Boom, boom, boom. We got to do this. But the more clarity I had about what was required, the order I wanted those things to be in, the more I could teach my kids that. And then that became their memories, their muscle memory, their internal mind map for mornings. So I want to encourage you to do this. Oh, I didn't finish my thought about eating. Okay, so with eating, kitchens close at 7:45. But what about kids who need to eat because they're taking medicine? Or what about kids who need to eat because the doctor told them they're low blood sugar, blah, blah, blah. One thing I want to remind parents is that most of the time they have a snack pretty quickly after they get there, like especially preschoolers. But even elementary school, they kind of snack like 10:30 and school starts at 8:30. So it's not that long to be hungry. Like, most people can handle that. But if you're really concerned, you can have a granola bar or a smoothie setup that they take in the car. Those little juice, not a Capri Sun, but a little protein smoothie or something. You can make a batch and put it in a jar if that's on your repertoire. Or you can also just get a Z-bar and have it in the car. So it's like breakfast, if you want eggs or, warm food, or you want to sit down on the table and eat a good breakfast, that's available till 7:45. But after that, nope, kitchen's closed. You can have bar in the car. I don't want a bar. I don't like the kind of bars you bought. You don't ever get the bars I like, right? Oh, okay. You don't have to eat it today. No problem. I'll take in your consideration. I didn't realize you didn't like these. We can talk about it, but this is what I have available to you today. So there's no rescuing. There's no okay, I'm going to throw this smoothie together and you got to eat. I'm going to just, shoving egg in their mouth as they put their socks and shoes on. I would rather you be calmer than that and be able to trust that a hungry belly does a good lesson. A cold body does a good lesson. Now, let me talk about jackets for a second. For the most part, after school, we would have a routine where their school sweatshirt, because I live in California, they never really needed a jacket. Their school hoodie was often already in their backpack because by the midday, they had put it away because it's warm here. Maybe they had worn it all day, but when we get home, we would put that hoodie back in the backpack. So when they got to school, they could put it on. We have a garage, so the car wasn't that cold. Again, I live in California. It's not that big of a deal for them to not be, they don't need to be super dressed warmly. Most of the time, parents overthink this piece of they need to have their coat on. You're going to go in the car and they're probably not going to be that cold unless it's really cold where you live. And then you can make one of your 5 things jacket. So socks, shoes, jacket. So it's kind of the same idea, the things you put on at the end of before you leave. So your 5 things where we get dressed, brush your teeth, eat, lunchbox, backpack, socks, shoes, jacket, right? So the things that you need to take to school are that 4th thing, lunchbox, backpack. Things you need to wear to school is your last thing that you put on. Socks, shoes, jacket. So just kind of really keeping it as simple as you can. And I would literally put my hand out to them and I'd look at it and I say, do you have your 5 things? Have you done your 5 things? And I would, go 1, did you do this? And I would, show my hands as I was like, showing that they ticked it off. Now, again, I love that little new idea with the lights. Like, did you go tick off the, yes, I did it. Yes, I did it. Yes, I did it. That means every morning you have to go back and put those lights on so that they can click them off. But that's not that big of a deal. Now, the same concept of 5 things, I did it at bedtime. We called it 3 things. So I would say, I'm happy to read books to you as long as you do your 3 things before the timer gets off. So I always had this idea that if I had time, I love reading books to my kids. It was my absolute favorite thing. We did it every night. Like, it was just part of our routine, like embedded in it. But I would say to my kids, like, I want to read to you and I hope we have time and we can, and I can read this many books as long as you're ready by 7:30 or 7:45 or before the timer goes off. So I would say you guys have to do your 3 things. And when I was teaching the 3 things, so the 3 things were pajamas, teeth, pee. So it was really simple. Get your pajamas on, brush your teeth, and go potty. So those were the 3 things. They didn't have to do that much because by that time we had already cleaned up. We have a 2-story house. So once they got upstairs, it was just doing those 3 things. So I'd say, okay, I'm happy to read to you as long as you guys do your 3 things. And then I would try to not hover over them. I would separate myself and I would go sit in my room and I would wait. Now, the first few times I did this, they did not do their 3 things, okay, within the timer because they did not know I was serious. They didn't know I meant business. They didn't even remember what the 3 things were because I had been rescuing and telling them what to do and putting their pajamas on and brushing their teeth and all of that. So this is like right around 5 or 6, I started to say, okay, you guys, I'm happy to read books to you as long as you do your 3 things. They would play and be so loud and so obnoxious and not get it done. And in that 10 minutes while I was waiting for the timer to go off, I have to stay quiet and not, do anything about it, right? I just wait. And the timer will go off and I come in, hey, did you guys do your 3 things? I'm looking around. I see that people don't have pajamas on. I see people have not been in the bathroom to brush their teeth. So let's go ahead and do that. Then I would change the limit. I'd say, we can read 1 book as long as you guys get your teeth brushed and your pajamas on and you beat the timer. And this time you only have 3 minutes. So let's go. And I would like make a little game of it, rush them through it and get, okay, now go potty. Okay, hop in your bed. And now let's do it. And then we'd have time for 1 book instead of 3. So sometimes they wouldn't do it at all. I'd have to stay calm, keep moving them through the moment, keeping track of the time, noticing they weren't listening and being okay, like just getting through the moment by guiding them to say, yep, nope, this is the time to put your pajamas on. Are you doing it or am I doing it? Am I brushing your teeth or are you? I'm going to stand at the door. I'm going to wait, right? So I'm very patiently waiting for them to kind of get with the program. I've taught this many, many times, and most kids, when they sense that you are serious, they know that they need to listen to you, especially if the next day they're like, oh, let's go to the park after school, or mommy, can we go to Starbucks and get a pop or whatever you do, a cake pop. And you say, oh no, we can't do that today because last night bedtime went 30 minutes late. So that was 30 minutes that I didn't get to do my chores. So we're going to go home and we're going to just work on the house and we have 30 minutes of chores to do. We'll see if we can go do something fun after that. So I would delay the consequence and have it be later where they would experience that negative impact of their behavior, of their dilly-dally and silliness and all of their dysregulation that happened at bedtime. I wanted them to understand it's okay that you aren't sure what to do or you can't get it together tonight. I'm going to help you, but this impact is yours to deal with. So this impact on the time, I want to pass that back to them. Same thing in the mornings. If we're going to leave at 8 and somebody's creating a big problem, I'm going to track that time. I'm going to let them know we left 7 minutes late because of what happened this morning. And so that 7 minutes is time that I would normally be taking care of myself, taking care of the family. So here is a list of 3 things you can do to repair that time back to me. So it's just helping you stay calm, not feeling like they're getting away with everything, that you are delaying the consequence. You're still having a gentle handoff for bed or for school. You're not trying to threaten them or tell them that tomorrow bad things are going to happen if you don't get it together today. You're telling yourself that, and you're letting your kids learn in experience that when you say that something is true or something will happen, that it does. There's no threats. There's just action. So you can, if you need to, say something like, hey kids, I'm keeping track of how much time it's taking for us to get out the door this morning. Or, hey kids, bedtime is supposed to be at 7:45 and it's now 15 minutes later. So I'm going to have to do something about this 15 minutes tomorrow. So I don't want you to create fear. I want you to have your kids be doing some thinking. Like, wait, what? And I promise the first 2 times you do it, they're going to be like, who cares? Because they're not going to really get what the impact will be. But then you do impact on them a couple of times and they're like, oh, right, I'll get my pajamas on. Or, okay, I'll put my socks and shoes on. Like, compliance isn't always skip to my loo, my darling, right? They're not just immediately going to comply. But I don't want them to comply because they're afraid. I want them to comply and listen to you because they know it's in their best interest to do that. When they have a peaceful, easy morning and get out the door on time, that means they have a peaceful, easy afternoon. When they have a peaceful, easy evening, they know that means a peaceful, easy, fun afternoon the next day. I want your kids to be making those connections and doing that logical thinking, that cause and effect thinking. They don't do it naturally. They don't do it because we tell them what's going to happen. They do it because we let them experience those impacts. So this is my concept on the 5 things, the 3 things, the morning routine, the evening routine, just getting those routines in a simple way, communicating those routines, holding your kids accountable to them, and allowing a process where you teach those routines and you make your life so much easier when those routines become muscle memory. Having kids, when you say, all right, it's time to do your 3 things at bedtime, they go and do those 3 things and then they come back and lay on the bed. Just imagine how perfect that would be for your evening. That is what's possible here. That's what I'm offering to you. When you get clear about what those things are, you communicate them, you let them fail, you follow through, and you do that a few times and they will learn what is required of them. So I hope it gives you hope. I hope it gives you some ideas. And good luck. I know we're still in the beginning or almost done with the beginning of the school year stuff. Hopefully you've got your routines, but if things are really not going well, do the 5 things. Everyone needs help at bedtime. Do the 3 things and see what changes in your life. All right, mamas, I hope you have a great week and I will talk to you next time. Hey mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do 2 things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.